And so even when I myself am working out, I work out for 30 to 45 minutes. And so someone says, Roseanne, is that enough time? And I say, yes, I've been at it for the last 20 years. The key, though, is it's about creating effective routines that you can be able to complete in as little as 20 to 30, 45 minutes. So how much time do you have becomes the question. Because if you say you do not have time, all you're really saying is, this is not a priority, truly.
Hi, I'm your host, Roseanne Kamau, a certified nutrition coach with a background in psychology. Here on Hey Sugar Podcast, you will learn how to live a healthy and sustainable lifestyle without dieting. I'll be teaching you practical tips that you can incorporate in your unique lifestyle. I am going to help you break any dieting mindset traps and show you that a healthy and sustainable lifestyle is doable. So if you're ready to change your life for good and create a healthy and sustainable lifestyle for yourself, then this is for you. Let's go.
All right, let me tell you guys, I'm going to be real and honest with you. So in 2018, actually, let's back it up. The way I started my journey is once I started coaching women, I started a fitness company. So it started as fitness where I would coach women, morphed into nutrition, and then morphed into mindset. And as we moved on in around 2015, the whole bag of coaching women kind of left me. So I didn't enjoy fitness. I didn't enjoy coaching women fitness, but I continued to work on my lifestyle. I continued to work on what it is that we're going to be sharing about today, which is strength training. And so in 2018, when I decided I am done with coaching women, I thought maybe I wasn't sure whether I'd made a mistake. But in this season, we're now in 2024, I am slowly getting the bag to really talk more about fitness, to encourage women to work out more and really push that forward a lot more than I was before. If you know me and you've known what I've done in the past, I really led a lot with nutrition and mindset. And I touched on movement, but I've really seen the power. And in this season, I'm really seeing the power of focusing on strength training. Obviously, as a result of where I am currently on my life journey, being perimenopausal, seeing the interest in strength training, how it's benefited me, how it's helped me. And so I truly feel like God is sort of bringing me back full circle to really talk more about strength training. So I wanted to give you that background so that you can have an understanding as to why this is so important for me today, and even moving forward, where you're going to be seeing me talking a lot about movement and even leading with movement. So the biggest things I focus on are nutrition, mindset, and movement. So today we're going to be talking about specifically strength training and why strength training is essential for you, why it's important for you, especially as a woman, especially as women. In fact, no matter how young you are, let's assume you are in your 20s, I would strongly encourage you to lead with strength training. Because in the past, a lot of what we've done is we've done a lot of cardio, a lot of running. And you know what? Kenya is a running country, right? Like a lot of us, when you think about even in the Olympics, when sprints come, y'all know we dominate in the marathon. And so we do have that running culture, and it's great and it's fantastic. But I also want us to begin to embrace strength training. And I will share with you in today's episode why this is so important for you to embrace strength training. Now, when you think about strength training, and especially as a busy woman, it can really, for a lot of people, how many of you, in fact, let me ask you this question. How many of you have actually said, I just don't have time? Or when you think about strength training, you think about gyms. Or when you think about strength training, you think about men. Or when you think about strength training, you're thinking, yo, girl, I'm going to look like a man. I'm going to be muscles. And so that already becomes a turnoff, right? In my humble opinion, I think it's the conditioning that has happened in the culture over the years, where when we think about gyms or when we think about strength training, we think about bodybuilders, we think about men, we think about muscular people. And that's really not what it is. And I'll be making the case as to why I would strongly encourage you to focus on strength training. Now, another thing that I'm just going to be real and honest. I was also very, very careful, and I really have been, and I'm being a little vulnerable here. I've been very careful not to lead with my body because I've seen a lot of, like on social media where people post pictures of their bodies, how they look a certain way. I don't know. There was something in me that was such a huge turnoff because for me, I really wanted it to be about health. Now, why do I say this? Because someone might look and say, oh, you don't look like someone who strength trains. I don't know. Because, we have this conditioning that's happening about how people look. Yeah, me, I'm just being honest and just being real. I'm just saying. So the way we are going to lead this conversation is I really want you to look at this as a lifestyle that I'm encouraging you to create, number one. I'm also wanting you to look at it from a healthy perspective and a healthy lifestyle. And then we're also going to think about psychological benefits of strength training. Obviously, you all know because psychology is my background. And we're also going to thinking about it from a holistic perspective. So the first thing why strength training is going to be important for you is I want you to think about your bone health and prevention of osteoporosis. Now, growing up, my grandmother, Shosho Hannah, my Shosho, loved her. She's the one who raised my dad. And she really was, she's my Shosho. And one of the things with my grandmother is she was completely bent over. She was just bent over. You've seen people who are old and their spine completely bends over. That's osteoporosis. Most people are not born that way. And that happens as a result of a lack of, obviously nutrition is critical. So when your bones are not strong from when you're young, when you're eating healthy, and you're ensuring that there's all these vitamins that are in your body and minerals, over time as you begin to get older, that's when the spine begins to have that curvature happening. And so my grandmother growing up, I remember it was such a, because you've seen those shoshos who are old and they're completely bent down. Part of it is lack of proper diet from growing up. And so that's why it's going to be critical that we're feeding our children wholesome foods from when they're younger, because I want you to see the effects and how this can catch up later. So with my grandmother, all I recognize is, oh my God, it was because, and yet she was very hardworking, right? But probably her nutrition wasn't as good. So lacking your bones, lacking that the vital minerals is one of those things. But when you begin to add strength training on, this actually now begins to help on your bone strength, on your bone health rather. When you begin to engage into regular exercises, what happens is your muscles begin to pull into your bones, and over time your bones begin to become stimulated. You have great bone density, and over time they become strong. So when you're thinking about strength training, I would love for you to make that connection with your health. Why are you even doing this? I want you to think about 10 years down the road. Let's not have this short-term thinking where we're thinking, oh, I'm just going to the gym to lose weight, which, by the way, it doesn't work that way. In fact, strength training has such a small role in weight loss, like 5 to 10%. So you're really wanting to think about long-term. So it's really crucial about preventing osteoporosis, which is a condition that's characterized by having those brittle bones, and you really want to be able to have those strong bones. And there's research that shows that when you do strength training with the weights, so it's weighted bearing exercises, that's going to significantly increase your mineral bone density. And especially if you're perimenopausal or menopausal, this is going to help reduce the fractures. Now, here's a statistic in a study that the people who, as you're growing older, do you know the number one thing that a lot of people that begins to age or quickly age older people is bone breakages and fractures, specifically hip breakages. And so it's really important that we are mindful about working on strength training in our young age so that we're not breaking our bones, having osteoporosis, and breaking those hips as we get older. So that's number one. Number two is I want you to think about the long-term benefits. Now, as we grow, muscle generally and naturally declines with age. And this is a process known as sarcopenia. Now, what sarcopenia is the element of your lean muscle mass just slowly declining as a result of age. So it's a natural process of aging. But you know what's beautiful about this? You can be able to counteract this by building and maintaining lean muscle mass by adding more strength training. So one of the things that is going to be helpful for you to sustain your lifestyle, to stay active, is literally trying to load more weight-bearing exercises into your day-to-day life. Now, a couple of those things are simple. You can do squats at home. You're literally bearing weight in your body. Why a squat? Think about it. You're standing and you're sitting down on a consistent basis. All you're doing right there is a squat. When you're sitting in the bathroom, that's a squat. In fact, the best bathrooms, You know the bathrooms that we have in shags or when you go camping, the ones where you're literally forced to sit down in that posture where you are sitting down. It's actually really good for us because not only are you working on opening up those hip flexors, but it's also really good at helping the food flow naturally. And you go into the bathroom in a natural basis. So I want you to think about long-term benefits of our strength training, because this is going to help you when you think about creating a sustainable lifestyle. Then I want you to think about boosting your metabolism. Now, there's something known as your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. When we begin to add more strength training, all that means is when you begin to add more lean muscle into your frame, what happens is you are going to burn more calories while at rest. And ideally, we want to increase your BMR. And what BMR does when you increase it, it is beneficial for managing your weight, sustaining your energy levels, and especially for you as a busy woman, if you're moving up and down. One of the things when you have a very good and a strong BMR, your basal metabolic rate, you're going to be able to notice that your energy is up. In fact, let me give you a quick tip. When you have more lean muscle mass, you actually can be able to get away by eating a little bit more food. Because for you, when you have more lean muscle in your frame, remember, muscle is a metabolically active tissue. And so more lean muscle mass just means you raise your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, which means you are going to be able to burn more fat while at rest. Are you seeing all these benefits of strength training? Are you seeing why this is going to be important for you? And in fact, studies show that resistance training is effective for increasing lean muscle mass and improving your metabolic function. And I'm going to attach this study that was done in PubMed, which shows this exact reason that I'm giving you. And so strength training, weight training is going to be important. Now, for someone who believes, who leans strongly in psychology, one of the things that's going to be beneficial, and I've actually used this tool for myself, is I always consider, okay, what are the other benefits? What else is it doing in my body? And when I consider, in the last couple of years, as I've been moving into perimenopausal, one of the things that I've noticed was I just noticed my mood shifting, my energy shifting significantly. And that wasn't good for myself, for my emotional well-being. But I also noticed when I started doing more strength training, more so though dancing, if I can be absolutely honest, more so dancing. Dancing is what I noticed really helped shift and change my mood. But for some people, because I've also been exercising for years, strength training has been shown to reduce your stress, reduce your anxiety, help you improve your physical performance, remove those endorphins, which are natural mood lifters, like you actually feel good. These are things that are helpful and are going to help you when you are considering what are the other benefits of strength training. I also want you to think about your cognitive function. This is your brain. What happens to your brain? A lot of people have said, they'll come to me as I'm coaching my clients like, Roseanne, my brain fogged. I just can't seem to think clearly. And this is the thing about strength training. Yani, it's not just good for your muscles. It's also good for your brain. Ask me why. Ask me why. When we exercise, there's a protein that gets released in the brain, BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF. And the way I want you to think about it, I want you to think about it as fertilizer for your brain. And what this fertilizer for our brain does is it helps you grow new brain cells. When you grow new brain cells, guess what happens? Improve your cognition, improve your memory. You're thinking much more sharper. You have more energy. As a result of what? Strength training, I mean, how exciting is this? For me, whenever I think about, it's not just about a look, but can we look and see what else happens inside the body? What else is happening inside the brain? These are some of the things that when I think, in fact, so one of my coaches was training me and he had me weightlifting. So I was doing weightlifting, especially in 2021. Man, I thought that was the hardest thing. That was really hard. And as he was training me, I knew about BDNF and I knew about this natural fertilizer in my brain. And when I hated doing extra sets that he was having me do you know what got me to do this? I kept saying, you know what? This is for my brain. Girl, you're doing this for your brain. This is for the brain. And I'm like, can those brain cells grow, man? Like, grow those cells, sis. Grow those cells. And me making that connection, I found myself able to do more. And so it's also important for you to find what is that thing that causes you to actually take action. And so anytime I make that connection in the brain and I don't want to do something, like for me, exercising, that would be one thing. I remember another time I was working with Coach Ken, and we were doing boxing. And boxing requires a lot of brain connection because it's a lot of coordination. And one of the things I'm not really, your words are very powerful. Gotta be careful what I say. What I'm working to improve on is my coordination. So we were doing boxing, and I noticed we were working out with another teammate, and my teammate was just like going da 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 da, like those punches, upper hook, jab hook, whatnot. And so I noticed like he would speak faster, and I noticed for me, I needed to slow down my brain because he was throwing in too many commands at the same time, and I wasn't moving as fast. And initially, because I was comparing myself to my teammate, I remember saying, you know what? This is your own journey. And so as we were doing the boxing and as we were working with that, I remember as I continued on, I noticed I was getting better. And you know why this was happening? Because of something known as neuroplasticity in the brain. Now, someone might be asking, okay, what is neuroplasticity? It's simply your brain's way to change and adapt to new things that you are doing in life. You know how when you're starting to do something new, it's hard, it's difficult, but when you start doing it on a regular basis, what happens is, and it's something very new, all your brain is doing is your brain recognizes that there's something new that's happening. So let's figure out how to make new connections in the brain. This is neuroplasticity. And in fact, in the past, scientists thought that once you reached a certain age, like that's all there was. Like you couldn't make new brain cells. Like once you reached a certain age, that was it. Like you were given enough new brain cells. But guess what? This is what I love, not just about science, but really about God. It's this whole thing, like every new season, something new. Like there's new rebirth. There's a rebirth of cells in the brain. And so when you start taking on new things, new activities, strength training, guess what you're doing? You're now beginning to form new brain cells, and this is known as neuroplasticity. And all you're doing is you're creating new connections in the brain, new pathways in the brain, and it's like a new path somewhere, and you can be able to follow. And so over time, the more I did boxing, I realized, oh, wow, yeah, I'm actually noticing I'm becoming faster. And all I knew, it was because of BDNF and neuroplasticity in the brain. Like, how beautiful is that, you guys? Like, think about it. So my point is, I don't want you to feel like it's too late or I can't do this XYZ. In fact, can I just throw an aside here? Let me throw an aside here. I've actually had a couple of close people who've had strokes in a family. And one of the things that they believed about stroke victims was, and what stroke does is affects a part of the brain and a couple of brain cells do die. But because of neuroplasticity, this whole new aspect of your brain creating new cells, guess what? It's not over. You can relearn. You can learn new skills. But of course, with stroke patients, you really gotta be on it really, really quickly. So that also, especially if someone is older, they can be able to catch on. But the point is, it's never all lost. It's never all lost. And I think for me, it almost feels like the power of just God has given us as human beings. Like nothing is ever lost. Nothing is ever set in stone. And for me, it's just hope. There's always hope. In fact, that's what it is. It just feels, okay, there's hope. As long as we apply ourselves to the process. Oh, are we together here? Are we together? Okay. Now, for busy women, the next thing is about efficiency, practicality of working out. One of the things I do when I coach my clients, in fact, most of my exercises are that I give my clients are between 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And so even when I myself am working out, I work out for 30 to 45 minutes. And so someone says, Roseanne, is that enough time? And I say, yes, I've been at it for the last 20 years. The key, though, is it's about creating effective routines that you can be able to complete in as little as 20 to 30, 45 minutes. So how much time do you have becomes the question. Because if you say you do not have time, all you're really saying is, this is not a priority, truly. And so if I'm telling you 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes is enough, it's doable. And so for me, when I think about you as a busy woman, and when you're thinking about strength training, I want you to think about, is this feasible for me? And the answer is absolutely yes. So you're doing things like compound movements. What is a compound movement? A compound movement is where you're working more than one muscle group at a time. And so even when I am exercising, a lot of what I'm doing is compound movement. So I'm doing something like a deadlift. And so with a deadlift, I'm literally lifting up this heavy weight from the ground and I'm working my back, I'm working my glutes, I'm working my quads, I'm working my shoulders. And literally, I'm also working my core. So you notice that with this type of movement, you're working different muscle groups at the same time. Or I'm probably doing like a bench press. With a bench press, I'm working my chest, I'm working my triceps, I'm working my biceps, you're working your shoulders. So you're working several muscle groups at the same time. And this is going to be beneficial for you because when you work two muscle groups at the same time and more, you don't necessarily need to have a lot of time in the gym. And the key is about adapting. Once you decide you have time, now you look for something that you're going to love and to enjoy. And this is one of those things that is going to be very helpful for you as a busy woman who is looking to lose weight and lose it sustainably and or create this healthy lifestyle. Stress management is one of those things a lot of women have told me, man, please, I need to hit a gym because I am high. It's like if you're in a high-strung job or maybe your kids are driving you, because y'all know driving you nuts, sometimes you're going to need to go to the gym and work out. And so one of the things that I've done for me is I focus on strength training. And I'd encourage you to do that because it's actually been shown, if you focus on strength training, it's been shown to help reduce levels of anxiety, reduce level of depression for people, contribute to you feeling better overall. When you come back in, there's those feel-good hormones known as endorphins. It's like your happy hormone that gets released when you work out. And what happens is when you're noticing these things are happening, even your self-image and your well-being, you just start feeling better. And research shows that strength training can improve your self-esteem and reduce all these symptoms that we're talking about. And so this becomes a very valuable tool for you to focus on when you think about mental health, right? Mental health is one of those things that is really important. And when we get out of our social media, when we get out of our phones and decide instead of being here for 30 minutes, why don't I go to the gym for 30 minutes? You're going to notice yourself feel better. Now, you recall I talked about my grandmother and her bending over. So one of the things that is going to help from the get-go, you're just going to notice your posture improves. You're standing up stronger, straight more. Your core becomes stronger. In fact, I just noticed myself just push my shoulders back a little bit more, So for those of you who are on YouTube, if you're listening, maybe you might want to go to YouTube because I was like, as I'm talking about this point, am I standing tall? In fact, if you're listening to this in your car, did you notice like you tucked your abs in a little bit more? Maybe you sat up more. If you're walking, you found yourself just standing up a little bit stronger. Right? Have you noticed doing that? And if you haven't, okay, let's just go with it. Could you do that? So it really does help with our posture. And I want you to think about how we sit a lot more in our offices. So this is one of those things. If we're sitting a lot and we are humped or we are hunched over, right? So we are hunching over in our offices, we're bending down. If we have our phones, what are we doing? Bending down, looking at our phones. So notice you're pulling on your head is heavy. It's putting on pressure on your neck. You're bending down. That puts pressure on your spine. These are some of the things that we're saying. I want us to now work differently. And so what we're going to do is focus on not just strength training, but even think about mobility. Think about functional fitness. And so when we focus on strength training, it's going to make your everyday activities easier and less physically taxing. Now, I want you to think about climbing up your stairs and you're carrying your groceries, or you're carrying stuff, or you are carrying your children, or you're playing with your grandchildren. When you are strong, you're going to be able to do all these things. I want you to imagine yourself going up the stairs. Do you go up and stop in a huff and a puff? Which is what happened to me many years ago when I was overweight. That's over 20 years ago. In fact, when I looked at it, I was like, it was 20 years ago when I was like obese and I was climbing up the stairs and I was huffing and puffing. I want you to think about your day-to-day activities. What are those things that you do? You know there was a time you were doing them and they were easy, but now you just find yourself struggling and dragging. What I want to let you know is if you apply yourself to the process of actually doing the work, you'll notice it's going to be so much easier. It feels hard in the beginning. I want to be real and honest about that. But the key, you got to just keep showing up for yourself. You got to keep going. And the more you keep showing up for yourself, it actually becomes easier. And so the key is for you to focus, to begin to work on that. Mobility is something I've talked about, and flexibility. And one of those things that happens is, have you ever seen someone who's squatting really well, like a squat? Do you know we are supposed to be squatting? When we were born, have you seen babies squat? They squat really, really well. And so as we've grown older, our joints have just become tighter. And so what happens when we have tighter joints is we are not as flexible. And when we do not incorporate strength training or mobility type of movements, that's when a lot of people become injured. So injuries tend to be more when you're not as mobile, when you're not as flexible. And so in order for you to reduce elements of injuries, even by the way, a lot of knee aches, you know how sometimes they say my knees are hurting, my ankles, my joints are hurting? That's a result of excess weight, but also underactive, either quads, that's the thigh muscles, your glutes muscles, they're not as active. So focusing on strength training is going to be one of those things that is going to help you. How many of you have ever gone to work out, gone to the gym, and you slept like a baby? Because when I tell you, strength training is going to improve your quality of sleep. It's one of those things. When I was insomniac in 2020, 2021, I mean, that season was just a hard season for me. And sometimes I would even, especially 2021, there was a season when I was like, I gotta figure this out. So I'd do strength training in the morning, then I'd go work out in the evening because I'm trying to tire my body. And what happened, even though it was quite sporadic, some days it would work, some days it wouldn't work. And obviously I needed to work on other things to really help me with my sleep. So what will happen with strength training is it actually does improve and regulate your sleeping patterns. So it's going to be important for you to focus on physical activity, strength training, which is going to help improve your body's circadian rhythm, and it's going to promote you sleeping better and have that restful sleep. Now, research has shown that exercises, including strength training, is associated with sleep quality and insomnia. In fact, for people who have insomnia, one of the things that the doctors tell them is, of course, waking up at the same time, sleeping at the same time, and I've done a whole episode on that. But it's this whole aspect of, can you move your body? Can you tie your body? Can you even walk? Because, by the way, walking is the most underrated form of exercise. So walking is also another way that I would encourage you to focus on. Then think about balance and coordination. Listen, when we think about falls, and you think about injuries, and you think about what I was talking about, it's simply as a result of lack of muscle and control and flexibility. So when we're thinking about strength training, I really want you to think about what are these other things that you're going to be focusing on? What are the benefits, that you're going to be getting? And so I want you to think about fall prevention, because the number one reason why a lot of older people are in the hospital, you probably know that, is falling. And that is a result of lack of coordination. But if you start this early and you make it a lifestyle, something that you can do forever, it's going to become so much easier for you as we are aging. Because again, we're not thinking about this short term, we're thinking about this long term. And then obviously, this is one of those things, strength training really helps lower your risk of chronic disease. And I want you to think about things like cardiovascular health. This is reducing the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure. What this does on the inside, strength training, is it actually helps improve, a lot of your cardiovascular health and your muscle health. A lot of people tend to think that, okay, running is the only thing that will work. But no. It's strength training. We've seen receptors in our body, insulin receptors that are connected to your lean muscle mass. So that just shows the more you focus on strength training, you're going to be able to manage your insulin resistance better. In fact, one of the tips I want to throw in there when we think about type 2 diabetes or it's people who do not have a good regulation of their insulin is walking after eating. Walking after eating. Why? Because your lean muscle mass is your biggest muscle, is a big metabolic active tissue. And when you walk, what you do is it pulls in the glycogen that's come in. Is there such a word as come in? Surely. It pulls the muscle that the glycogen that has come in from the food. Listen, come in. We are making up words as we go along. All right. So it's going to pull that in. It's going to pull the glycogen in, which is a form of sugar that's coming from your carbs. So walking after exercises, ding, ding, ding. That's a great tip for you, for someone who may be struggling, or you know someone who's struggling with insulin resistance. After a meal, just have them go for a walk for 10 minutes. What are we doing? Activating those muscles. Listen, for me, I don't know, whatever, I've seen the benefits. I know the benefits. I've worked with older people and I've seen how their lives have changed and how their lives have completely improved. Just embracing strength training. And we're not even saying hard things. Literally, use your body the way God created it. Move it more. Instead of sitting down more, could you stand up? Many years ago, I remember my husband had this habit where he put it on his phone because he was working in an office where every hour, I actually noticed that it would ping, stand up for a 5-minute stretch. I remember thinking, I like that idea. That's really good. So for someone, if you're in the office, you could just literally stand up. In fact, have phone calls while standing up. If you can be able to do your work while standing up, rather than sitting down. You've probably heard the WHO has given a study that sitting down is even worse than smoking cigarettes. Sitting down is worse than smoking cigarettes. And so I want you to just consider, what are the things I could do more where I'm actually standing up more? Couple of things. Climb upstairs in the office. You're using your muscles that way. Instead of using the elevator, using the escalator to drive you up. I just keep thinking, man, this world has really conditioned us humans to think differently. Because the people who live, I want you to think about the Italians who live for many years. Right? They've studied the centenarians, the people who live for hundreds of years, they live very long, fruitful lives. Northern Italy is a very hilly. Let's not even go there. I'm going to come back to shags. My grandfather, Guka John, that guy used to go walk about 5Ks morning and evening, back and forth walking. But before he would do that walk, he would go down to the hills, down to the river and climb up looking at his farm. 90-something years old. So what we're saying is we're beginning to lose ourselves as humans. We're beginning to do things that are not naturally how we were meant to be living. We're making life so simple for us, but it's actually affecting us. If 100-year-old people, those centenarians who live very long years, walk long distances, stay active, all they're doing is literally they're acting, they're using their lean muscle mass. And so who are we to not live like them? Who are we not to be able to live that length of life? Who are we not to be able to create this healthy lifestyle from now? Because when we switch our mind and we recognize, yes, this is about creating a healthy and sustainable lifestyle. This is not about something I'm doing short term. This is a way of living. This is going to be a way of life. And I'm telling you, the more we live at it this way, and you're going to start small, you don't need to start overnight. You don't even need, by the way, someone's probably saying, Roseanne, are you saying I need to go to the gym? By the way, no. But can you start being more active? Can you start going to walk more at Karura? Can you go hiking with those girlfriends of yours who like hiking? Can you meet and go and discuss with your sisters out for a walk rather than sitting down? Just try to be more active. These are things that are going to help you and help you create this healthy lifestyle. And so I can assure you that as a busy woman, you do have the time if you make this a priority for yourself. Remember, we've said it's not about having staying an hour, 2 hours in the gym. If you have an hour, sure, that's great. But it's not about staying for long hours in the gym. Short time, smart training, repeat the same muscle groups over and over and over. We're looking at creating this holistic lifestyle. Now, we created a program called Fit and Fab. Because because it's about becoming fit and becoming fabulous. This program is geared for busy women. If you want to test it out for free, go to the link below. I want you to test this program out for free for 14 days, for 2 weeks. We want you to try it out for free because I want you to have an idea what kind of thing this is. So if this is something that has interested you, you want to do it, just go to the link below. Come on in, fit and fab. This is a challenge where I would encourage you as a woman to come in, try this program and get to see. This is free, by the way, or it's all free. And see whether this is something that you would be interested in. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you're going to embrace more strength training for that holistic lifestyle that we are encouraging you to focus on. And as always, remember, you've got one life, you've got one body, and I want you to treasure it.